All right, so today we're going deep on something I think everybody thinks about at some point, right?
Mm.
The meaning of life.
Yeah.
And we've got like a crazy mix of stuff for this one. We've got philosophy excerpts, we're going to compare different religions, and even some modern psychology research too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing how this one question, the meaning of life, pops up like everywhere in so many different places.
It really does. Like you said, everyone thinks about it, right? I think it speaks to like this core need we have as humans to, to understand like where we fit in,
Right, exactly.
what our purpose is, all that.
Exactly. And speaking of purpose, one of our sources talks about this guy, Viktor Frankl, who actually found meaning in, of all places, the Holocaust.
Really?
Yeah. We'll talk about that one later. But it just shows how this search for meaning, it can happen anywhere, anytime, even in the worst possible situations.
That's incredible. I mean, it's like a testament to how resilient people can be. Like even when things are horrible, we can still find something to, hold on to.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so to get started, let's jump into, I guess, what you could call one of the most famous philosophical takes on this, existentialism.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Have you ever heard that phrase, like, existence precedes essence?
Um, yeah,
It
vaguely.
comes from Jean-Paul Sartre.
Right.
It's pretty, complicated idea.
Yeah.
But basically what he's saying is we aren't born with a purpose, right? Like, there's no set plan.
Right.
We're born, and then it's up to us to create our own meaning, like, through the choices we make.
It's kind of a radical idea when you think about it. Like
Right.
it throws out the whole, destiny thing and
Gotcha.
says it's all on us.
Yeah, it's all on us, which, I don't know, it can feel kind of empowering, but also scary at the same time, right?
Totally, yeah. It's like, ooh, I'm free, but also, oh no, what do I do now?
Right, exactly. And this, it actually connects to another idea we found, absurdism. So this guy, Albert Camus, another existentialist, he was really into this idea of the universe being meaningless. But, and here's the thing, humans still crave meaning.
Right.
So it's like this clash between what is and what we want.
It's like we're searching for something solid to grab onto, but the world just keeps, throwing chaos at us.
Exactly. And you know what's interesting? Camus actually used this myth, the myth of Sisyphus, as like a metaphor for this whole thing.
Sisyphus. Remind me.
He's the guy who's like eternally punished by having to push this boulder up a hill.
Right, right. And it keeps rolling back down.
Yeah, over and over again. So I guess what Camus is saying is even if life sometimes feels like that, like an uphill battle we can never win, we can still choose to find meaning in it, right? Like in the fact that we keep pushing, we keep trying.
Exactly. It's about like rebelling against the absurdity of it all by finding meaning in the struggle itself, in our own actions, It's like accepting that there's no inherent meaning, but, not letting that crush us. We make our own meaning by how we live.
I think that resonates with a lot of people, right? Like we all search for something to hold on to, especially when things get tough. But it kind of makes you wonder, right? Can meaning really be created like that? Or is it something we discover, something that's already out there?
Oh, that's a great question. And honestly, I don't think there's an easy answer. Maybe it's a bit of both. But I do think the fact that we're asking, that we're searching, that itself can be a source of meaning.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we've been talking about this idea that like meaning might not be like built into the universe.
Right.
It's something we kind of create through our choices.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, what about people who find meaning in something bigger than themselves?
Oh, yeah. Good point. We can't talk about meaning of life and not talk about, religion.
Exactly. So our sources touch on a few like major religions, like Christianity, for example, often talks about life's meaning being about, connecting with God.
Right.
And like fulfilling whatever his purpose is for us.
And that purpose often ties into the whole, eternal life thing.
Right, right.
Like what we do here matters for, way beyond just our physical lives. It's like our life here is part of a much bigger story.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, then you have like Buddhism.
Yeah.
And they come at it completely differently,
Yeah.
right? Like for them, it's all about overcoming suffering,
Right.
reaching enlightenment
Yeah.
by detaching from like all those worldly desires,
Yeah.
almost like the opposite of Christianity in a way.
It's wild, right? How these different belief systems can be so different, but still all trying to answer the same question.
Totally. So in Buddhism, it's not about like following some preset plan.
Yeah.
It's about like breaking free from suffering.
Yeah, finding peace within yourself.
Right. It's like two sides of the same coin. One's about striving for something, the other's about letting go.
Exactly.
And then you've got Hinduism with all the karma and dharma stuff
And
and reincarnation.
right, right. So in Hinduism, your actions have consequences that can last like multiple lifetimes.
Blah.
So the meaning of life gets tied into, fulfilling your duty, your dharma, and like trying to break free from the cycle of rebirth.
So even though they're all super different, it seems like there's this common thread,
Oh, yeah. What's that?
this idea of connecting to something bigger than yourself.
Right, right.
Whether it's God or some spiritual path or even just a set of principles, right?
Yeah, I think that resonates with people, even if they aren't religious.
Yeah, totally. It's like we're hardwired to want to belong, to feel
Wow.
like we're part of something bigger.
For sure.
Okay, so we've got existentialism, where it's all about individual choice, and religion, where it's about connecting to something bigger.
Right.
But what about, like, more modern views?
Like more secular.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, one that's getting a lot of attention is secular humanism. It basically says, like, human reason, ethics, compassion, that's where meaning and purpose come from.
So instead of looking to, like, a higher power or something.
Yeah. It's shifting the focus to, like, human values and, like, taking responsibility for each other and for the planet.
I like that. So it's about finding meaning through our actions, right? How we contribute to society, our relationships with other people.
Exactly. It's about living ethically and, trying to make the world better.
Yeah, like a call to action almost. We have the power to create meaning by making a positive impact.
I like that.
And this reminds me of one of our sources talks about Martin Seligman, who's like the father of positive psychology.
Right.
And his work is all about like cultivating well-being
Yeah.
and using our strengths to do good, like contribute to something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, it's like finding that perfect spot where your passions and skills meet a real need in the world.
Yeah. It makes you think about like those times when you're totally absorbed in something.
Yeah.
Like you completely lose track of time.
You're in the flow.
Yeah, exactly. Could that be like a clue to what your own personal meaning is?
It's definitely a good place to start. Like, what makes you feel truly alive? What are you doing when you feel most connected to something bigger than yourself?
Yeah, yeah. That's a good point. And it kind of brings us back to Viktor Frankl and his story. Finding meaning in a concentration camp, I mean, that's...
Intense.
Intense is an understatement, right? It's just such a powerful example of how, even when things are absolutely terrible, we can still find something to hold on to.
And that experience led Frankl to develop this whole thing called logotherapy.
Oh, right.
It's focused on this idea that humans have a will to meaning. Like, even in the face of suffering, we can still choose our attitude and find meaning in how we respond to life's challenges.
So it's not about what happens to us, but how we react to it.
Exactly. And he actually identified 3 specific sources of meaning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, creative meaning, experiential meaning, and attitudinal meaning.
Okay, so creative meaning, I guess that's like expressing yourself through art or music or writing or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And then experiential meaning, that comes from those moments of beauty and love and connection we experience.
Okay, yeah.
And attitudinal meaning, that's all about choosing how we respond to challenges and suffering, even when we can't control what's happening to us.
Wow. So even in the worst situations, we still have some control.
Yeah, we have the power to choose how we react, how we interpret things, and how we find meaning in it all.
It's a really powerful message, right? Like about resilience and hope. But it also makes me wonder, is happiness the same thing as meaning?
Oh, that's a great question. And it's something a lot of people struggle with because happiness, we usually associate that with, pleasure and feeling good.
Yeah, like being content.
Right. But those things, they don't necessarily equal meaning.
So like you could be happy laying on a beach, totally relaxed, but still feel like something's missing.
Exactly.
Like you don't have a purpose.
Right. Meaning often involves something more than just feeling good. It's about having a purpose, feeling like your life matters.
Like your actions make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes you wonder if sometimes we're, like, chasing the wrong thing.
Right. Like if we're just focused on happiness, or are we missing out on something deeper?
That's a good question. And actually, there's research that shows people who are pursuing meaningful goals, they tend to be more satisfied overall.
Really?
Yeah, it's like searching for meaning can lead to a deeper sense of fulfillment.
So maybe it's not about avoiding challenges or chasing those like fleeting moments of happiness. It's about embracing the struggles and working towards something that gives our lives purpose.
Yeah, I think so.
But in today's world, like with all the technology and everything,
It's a whole other layer, isn't it?
it feels like finding meaning is even harder now.
For sure.
How do you think this digital age is affecting our search for meaning?
It's tricky because it's a double-edged sword, right? Like, social media, on one hand, it can connect us with people, expose us to new ideas.
Right.
It can even be a place to be creative and make a difference.
Yeah.
But it can also be a breeding ground for comparison. Like, everyone's trying to show their perfect life.
Right. And you start feeling bad about yourself.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like this constant stream of curated perfection that makes it hard to feel content, let alone find meaning.
It's like we're looking to algorithms to tell us what's meaningful.
Yeah, it's like
Yes.
we're outsourcing our search for meaning.
Wow. So how do we even navigate all of this without losing sight of what really matters? Okay, so we've been talking about meaning in our own lives,
Yeah.
in our choices, our values, our relationships. But it makes you think, like, what about the bigger picture?
Yeah.
If we zoom out from our own little world, like, what can we even say about the meaning of life itself?
Oh, man, now we're getting really existential.
Right. And it takes us back to that whole absurdism thing.
Chemo.
Yeah, Kemas. If the universe really is meaningless, does that mean, like, all this searching we do, is it all just pointless?
Ugh, that question. It's been bugging philosophers forever. And honestly, there's no answer that's going to make everyone happy. But here's the thought.
Oh.
Even if there's no, like, big objective meaning to the universe, that doesn't mean the meaning we create in our lives is worthless.
So it's like our meaning matters more because we chose it.
Yeah. It's like this act of defiance, like we're rebelling against the meaninglessness by saying, nope, we're going to find meaning anyway.
I like that, rebelling against the absurd. But hold on, if meaning is totally subjective, if we just make it up, doesn't it make it kind of random? Like, can I just decide the meaning of life is collecting rubber ducks?
Well, technically, yeah, you could.
So it's all just a game.
Not exactly. I mean, the choices we make about meaning, they usually come from somewhere, right? Our values, our experiences, how we see the world.
So it's not totally random. It's about finding something that, like, clicks with who we are.
Exactly. And I think it also comes with a sense of responsibility.
Oh, how so?
Well, if our choices really shape our reality, then we got to make choices that are good, right?
Yeah.
Not just for us, but for everyone else and for the planet.
So our meaning isn't just about us. It affects everyone around us, too.
Yeah, it ripples outwards. It makes you wonder, like, what kind of mark we leave on the world.
What kind of legacy?
Right. It's kind of humbling, right? To think that our little lives, even though they seem small, they're part of something much bigger.
Yeah. And our actions, even the tiny ones, they can keep affecting things long after we're gone. So, like, how do we even wrap our heads around all of this huge universe, and our tiny little lives in it? It can feel overwhelming, especially when you're trying to find your own purpose.
I get that. It's a lot to take in. For me, I find it helps to think about how connected everything is. We might be small, but we're all part of this huge web of life.
Right, right.
Our actions affect others, and theirs affect us. We're all linked together, even if we don't always see how.
And maybe that connection, that's part of what gives life meaning.
Yeah, it's not just our own little story. It's about how all our stories come together to make something bigger.
Maybe that's the key, right? And instead of searching for the answer to some big cosmic riddle, we just focus on living in a way that, like, respects those connections.
To each other and to the world around us. Maybe that's what a meaningful life really is.
That's a good way to put it. Maybe that's enough.
Yeah.
Wow. I think we've officially reached peak deep dive. So for anyone out there who's still thinking about all of this, what's, like, one last thought you'd leave them with?
I'd say this. Maybe meaning isn't something you find, but something you grow.
Grow.
Yeah, like a garden, you got to tend to it, pay attention to it, be willing to let go of things that aren't working anymore. It's not about finding a perfect answer. It's a journey.
Oh, I love that. Meaning as a garden. So everyone, keep tending to your own gardens of meaning. Explore, try new things, connect with others, and most importantly, don't ever stop asking those big questions. This has been The Deep Dive, and we'll catch you next time for another, well, deep dive into the world of ideas.